Okay, folks, happy Thursday evening. Let's adjust this fan before we go any further. And we have a lot of things to put away here on my table here. And that's good because there's nobody here. So, oh, there you are. You're here, but you're not here. Oh, look at that. It said 0 and 3 viewers. Oh, I feel like I have a big burden that's been lifted off of me. And that big burden was this quest for an airbrush. And I finally solved it. But I'm not going to brag about it too much because, you know, it's bad to be... it's good to be humble. Because then you end up eating your words when you don't. But... I finally got an airbrush that works. Right out of the box. And, you know, when I didn't have the other one that worked, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to return it. I needed to get the compressor anyway, so let me go ahead and return it and see what else is out there. And I went to the Hobby Lobby, and they had a Japanese brand one, which I'd heard good things about it, and I watched a couple of videos yesterday, earlier today at lunchtime, and I'm like, well, they have that in Hobby Lobby. Let me go pick that up, and if that thing doesn't work, then, you know, and I watched some videos of the takedown of it as well, and it's like, that's exactly how you should take it down. Not try to pull the needle out and then try to balance that button and try to feed it through there, but, you know, the other one didn't even work out of the box. That's not even a good sign. So, anyway, so I got the compressor. Basically, the airbrush came with it free. And then I got this airbrush, and the airbrush worked fine. It actually was rather expensive. I think $150 is rather expensive, but it didn't even come with an air hose. But I have an air hose from the compressor, so I was all set. And I was able to prime. I was able to prime this stuff. This isn't necessarily what I need to work on next, but this is relatively easy. And the nice thing is I was able to use a Vallejo surface primer on it and didn't have to thin it or anything. It ran like a champ. So I'm going to spend about 30 minutes messing with that. And now the nice thing is now I can go watch some videos on how to do, you know, how to tinker with it. It's not going to replace this. But it'll allow me to do, you know, maybe some spray camouflage. I would do everything the same, like maybe do some spray camouflage on it and then come back and, you know, weather it with this, with my method, because I kind of like my method and it's easy to do. I can't spray in here because it's a little noisy. It's not super noisy, but it's a little noisy. What do we have here? We got some paint that's somewhere it shouldn't be. Oh, that's blasphemy. We can't have that. And, so yeah, anyways, successful mission. So we're gonna have fun this weekend, that's for sure. But, cause I got buildings and stuff I gotta do, and I don't want to use the rattle cans anymore. They're really poor quality, and they're stinky, and you know. So now we should be able to use acrylics on everything. I actually have matte varnish from Vallejo, so we're going to try. This thing's going to get sealed this weekend with matte varnish spray and see how that works. And then we can go all acrylic. Not have to deal with the... Well, I still will seal my figures with this stuff, but this is like brush-on stuff. You know, it's not stink up the whole house stuff. But the splatter on the rattle cans are just getting out of control. They're just not good quality. I mean, I've used rattle cans for 30-something years, but it always had been Model Master. So, Martyr Thursday. Well, no, we're actually not doing Martyr, and I'm not going to work on the cruise. I just don't have it in me to work on the cruise right now. We're going to start fresh over the weekend, but this is the cruise for both of them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put away these extra T34 bits I have, and we're going to give these T34s an Agrax Earthshade wash. And then let them sit, and then if we still have something to do, then we'll start working on the other martyr, which is this guy. Okay? That's what we're going to do. So, because the cruise is enough to do both of the martyrs. so we can knock them both out. Anyhow, yeah. Let's go ahead and put all this stuff away. Put this away. We got extra bits for the Soviet vehicles. And I should have an extra little baggie of them. This one will do just fine. But you know, I use spray for priming because it's difficult to get some of it to stick on a surface that's kind of slippery. So we've got those SU-100s that need to be primed as well. So we've got some good stuff ahead. But I don't think I'm going to use the airbrush to, like, you know, dust it, because I think that when you start making it too blendy, all those details kind of like blend all in one thing. So also good stuff. I do enjoy seeing your work on the cruise. I just showed a PSC kit of the same last week. They're on deck after your French. What French you working on? Is it some S model French? S models and Plastic Soldier Company are the two best as far as they go together. And the Plastic Soldier Companies is like a lot more durable. They're super durable. Pegasus World War II. Pegasus World War II make French? I didn't know that. Okay. I don't know why I'm putting them all here. Let's do the ones without the cruise first. Agrax Earthshade. This is Nuln Oil. Let's see if we can kill this thing once and for all and get rid of... Oh, I forgot to take my drugs. So I don't turn into a leopard. They do? Guess I hadn't noticed. Fantastic detail. I like the... I'm really apprehensive of the plastic. It seems really pretty brittle. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. We got the contacts out. It seems really brittle, but it does have good detail, like you said. Those BT5s turned out really... I'm sorry, BT7s turned out really, really good. I was quite impressed. I was quite impressed. All right, now we just need to... Man, I got so much stuff just out here. I do a really bad job of putting things away when I'm done with them. And then I gotta put it away because it's just distracting. Okay, Agrax Earthshade. Here we go. You have to build little buggers. If it's Pegasus, it doesn't have very many pieces. What do you have in French that's made by Pegasus? I can't believe I missed it. But I'm not really in the market for French stuff, but I didn't know that they made French stuff. S35s? I don't even know. I don't mind building the stuff. You know, I'm doing this, and I'm not doing this like I gotta have them done by a certain time, so I'm in no hurry. I've forgotten I had ordered those armored cars. They should be in next week, so I can replace the antenna on the one and keep going. That's the only reason I stopped working on that one is I just hit a wall. Hit a wall on that Rodin armored car. David, the Civil War II range is truly awesome with great coats. Oh, maybe you're talking figures. I actually don't mind these plastic soldier figure guys. You got the same set then, right? The Czech 38. It's a great set. It's a good value. Hey, you and I are like the only people in the U.S. that do that scale. Nah, there's other folks, but that scale was, the scale you used to do everything in the 90s. I mean, unless you're doing micro armor. All right, this guy can go over here. Okay, here's where I don't mind if some of that rubs off. Okay, next one, we're doing this one. With same vintage. That's funny. I am from the 70s, but I think of myself from the 80s because, I don't remember much about the 70s. I didn't even dress myself in the 70s, which is probably a good thing. I had some horrible clothes in the 70s. Go watch, listen to music from the 70s and see what those people were wearing while they were doing that music. They had to be on some drugs. So I caught a glimpse of this set of rules. I actually had this set of rules that this one guy I know just swears by called Battleground. I remember when they came out, I had a set of the rules and I sold them on eBay. I went back and looked the other day and I sold them for $1.99. Nobody bid on them and somebody just got them basically for free. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't really care for them. They have grenades that only go 4 inches away. That's just too compressed for my take. But regardless, I came across some scenario books for that rule set, and when you start being a World War II nut, and obvious things are missed, you start losing credibility in the people that create scenarios when they miss something so obvious. And the obvious thing that I'm talking about is there's a scenario, is a module called Panthers East, and all the scenarios involve at least a panther in them, and they're 80s wasn't much better. 80s wasn't very kind to me, but I want to be like my age in the 80s, but anyhow, then I'd probably be dead. But so that's probably not a good thing. I'd be retired. Yeah. There's the scenario book's called Panthers East. It has 12 to 14 scenarios, something like that. They all involve panthers, and they're all on the Eastern Front. And they've got obvious mistakes, like there's a Prokhorovka scenario that's actually kind of neat. It's all vehicles, and there's just shy of 24 Soviet vehicles and a dozen and a half German vehicles. But 5 of the vehicles there are Panthers. So it's 5 Mark IVs, 5 Panthers, 5 Tigers, or something like that. That's what the Germans have, and it's supposed to be Das Reich Panzer Division, or technically at that time it was still called a Panzer Grenadier Division, although it was a lot more powerful than a standard Panzer Grenadier Division. But regardless, yeah, those guys didn't have any Panthers. The SS units did not have any Panthers at Kursk. The only people that had Panthers at Kursk were in two independent tank battalions, and I don't remember what the names of them are, but there's two of them, and they were attached to Grossdeutschland, who also had some Panthers of their own. Unless I am totally wrong, but anyways, I just thought it was kind of obvious that they missed something so simple. So then I'm like, well, I don't trust any of the scenarios anymore. But the Prokhorovka scenario is interesting because the victory conditions is you have to get a certain number of tanks off the opposite edge. I think that would make a good scenario. You know, you could fly off there, but somebody could take you out. So I might try a version of that to get familiar with vehicles. I got enough T-34s. Well, once I get these 4 done, I'll have 6 of the 1942 T-34s and 3 more early ones and 3 T-70s. I think in that scenario they actually had they had like 9 or 12 T-34s and then like 4 T-70s and like 4 Su-76s. You did a pair of Das Reich Tigers, 8th Company last year. I think you're correct on the Panthers. Yeah, I think so too. So I looked into doing the Panthers. You know, you find out about stuff by, you know, modeling and things like that. And I actually, way like in the 90s, I ended up making a scenario of, I ended up making a model of a Panther D at Kursk. And I put Grossdeutschland markings on it because I didn't want them to be that independent brigade that doesn't really excite me. But I was reading the Kursk book today that I'm working my way through, that I'm almost done. You know, it's being read to me while I drive. You know, it's on through Audible, and the German divisions that were on the South Salient. Actually, it happened in the north as well, but in the South Salient that was on the right-hand side, so just to the east of the SS divisions, that would have been 7th, 19th, and 6th Panzer Division. Those guys had Tigers because they had Tigers attached. And what happened is the 503rd Independent Tank Battalion spread out like a company to each one of those 3 Panzer Division. I didn't know that. Oh, look at this. I'm going over this and this paint's coming off that's underneath. Interesting. Well, let's not do that. Jim Simpson, welcome. I think you're a new viewer. Welcome. Got some T-34s going, and we're just hanging out. Just hanging out, having a good time. One more day to go, and then we've made it to the weekend. Okay, now we're going to let these guys percolate. Agrax Earthshade, by the way. And we're going to take this whole thing. We don't want this. This is going to be in our way. And we're going to move it somewhere else where it can dry. Oliver Cromwell's back. Put him all the way down here. He should be good. All right. Now, what that we're going to say? This stuff is a pain to get off. I watched you on some DBA armies. What game are you playing now? Well, I'm just painting World War II stuff for a skirmish game. It's called The Face of Battle. Of course, it's out of print, and we used to play it before DBA. And I don't remember how to play it anymore. I know the gist of it, but we're building stuff towards that goal. But I don't know when I'm going to get around to doing it. But you'll know when I get around to doing it because I'm going to make videos of it. So, it's ultra skirmish. In other words, it's actual scale. So, it's 20 millimeter size figures, and 1 centimeter equals a meter. So, it's basically in scale with the figures. So, because I think you kind of have to do it that way. I mean, if you've got a building and it's this big, so we've got one of them paper ass buildings. Here we go. If you got a building and it's this big, and you're playing an actual scale, it makes sense. But if you're playing, that 1 inch equals, that you can throw a grenade only 4 inches, then this building all of a sudden is a building that's, 150 foot long instead of being, 20. So, yeah. Just when you thought it was safe to paint T-34s, I show up to prove you wrong. What's up? T-34s. Can't have enough. I'm not looking forward to grinding the damn machine guns off the other ones. That was way too much work for what it was. What's going on? I'm a proud owner of an airbrush that works. That's what's going on. I finally got over the hump. So now I can watch videos on what to do with this stuff. So this is what we ended up priming today. And it's not quick, but man, I didn't have to smell anything. And I just used the regular airbrush, the surface primer I already use. And yeah, it worked really nicely. So this is for later. That's not necessarily in the queue. But okay. I had it on the tip of my tongue what I was going to do next because the T-34 is dry. It's really what I want to work on. Is it like bolt action? Oh no. Lysol cleaning spray. I got to use my Jesus juice that I've made for 4 years. It worked great. The surface primer went right through it. No problem. And cleaned right up. No mess. Piece of cake. Worked right out of the box like it should have. Lysol cleaning spray. I might get some when I go to the store. Why not? Didn't make a mess at all. I just don't want to run it here because if I do get a spill for some reason, then I gotta worry about some dark color bead in the grout. And it's probably not a good idea. What was I doing next? I had it on the tip of my tongue. Not the crew. I'm too tired to start working on the crew. Was it building some stuff? I don't remember. I don't remember what the hell it was. Does it really matter? Not really. But next week we should get the Plastic Soldier Company set that comes with these armored cars, so we can use the antenna for this one. That's going to give us a lot of eight-wheeled armored cars. So I've used it years. Really does clean airbrush good, and more importantly, it's cheap as hell. You're going to play a World War II trivia game with us. You want me to pull that shit out again? I don't know. It was kind of humbling. There was some hard shit in there that nobody would know. All right, let's go grab the World War II quiz and fact book. What the hell? That's where I got it. If I could reach it. I got all this stuff in places I can't reach. Oh, literally, it's all the way over there. All right, let's see if I can't have a problem here. There we go. I don't remember where the hell we left off. But we're going to start in the back because I know we didn't get there. All right, you asked for it. How many people we got? All right, we got enough players? All right, let's get a score sheet out. Because there's no point in playing a game without scoring. That's stupid. Haven't I taught you guys anything? It doesn't matter who wins, but you got to keep score. All right. These things were hard, man. This was really, really hard. This is an old book that I got in the early 80s. When was this thing printed? It has like no smell. I bet if I lived in England, it would have a smell. 82. All right, let's start from the back. They got stuff on here in the back, like, let's see. Oh, here's not one of the questions, but here's I will write this in the form of the question. It's backwards. God bless it. It always is. Unfortunately. It's back-asswards. Okay. How many Luftwaffe pilots attacked Allied troops during the initial Normandy landings? How many pilots got airborne and decided to attack the landing forces at Normandy? Rick says 100. Jim says 80. Nordic says 2, and that is the correct answer. Wow. I guess you knew. I probably would have guessed more than 2, but I probably would have guessed single digits. Maybe like 7 or something like that. So here's the 2 Nazi bastards right here. They are Colonel Josef Pips Priller, who I recognize him. I recognize his last name. I think he's a pretty high-scoring guy, if I remember correctly. But we'll get to that. Pips Priller and Sergeant Heinz. Oh, he's got a Polish last name. Wodarczyk. 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 All other German aircraft had been moved from the French coast to avoid destruction from regular Allied bombing. The unit this lone Luftwaffe pair belonged to. Jeez, drink. The unit this lone Luftwaffe pair belonged to was the 26th Fighter Wing. Here, Priller tells another Luftwaffe officer about the daring flight. It's more like the daring escape. Did I ever see The Longest Day? No, it's in black and white, assholes. They made a movie. Okay. Leading fighter pilots of all nations. So everybody knows there's Priller on here. I would only mention some of the German ones because it would just be out of control. How many kills those guys got, thanks to the war in Russia. I think they got a lot of the kills on the ground. Leading fighter aces all nations. To earn the distinction of being an ace pilot, to being an ace, a pilot, man, this thing doesn't have enough commas. To earn the distinction of being an ace, a pilot had to score a minimum of 5 kills or victories. As difficult as that was, the list of all aces would fill several pages. There were 330 in the U.S. Navy alone. I did not know that. Those listed here are aces who earned the title 5 times over or more, meaning a minimum of 25 kills. In addition, 38 German fighter aces scored over 100 kills, making them the unchallenged super aces of the war. In the interest of brevity, only German super aces with more than 250 kills each have been listed. Okay, so Priller probably got a bunch of kills, but he didn't get 250. So, yeah. Yeah, so if Priller shot 101 aircraft down, he still shot down more aircraft than anyone of any nation, because basically the Germans, the next scoring, the top, they have 5 people here over 250 and then a bunch over 100. What did it say, 38? And then the next number down that's not a German has 87 kills. Anybody want to guess who he's from? What nation is the next runner-up ace that is not German? All right, what are we going to do other than have a good time here? It's relatively ish. What am I going to do? I'm going to put together the other T-34s. F it. I'm going to put the Chelyabinsk ones together. I don't have to fight with those. I don't have to fight with those machine guns. They should be in here. Oh, they're here. Oh, these are T-30-45s. We're not going there because that brings Panthers to come out and play, and I don't have the stands long enough that they can take the Panthers just yet. I think I took a couple T-30-45s. I may have just put them back in there. That's what I did. Because these are all Skytreks. And I will build them, but they have those they have those machine guns I gotta chop off. I gotta get my Wheaties for that. I know what I was gonna do. We'll do that. I guess we won't do that. Canada. Nope. It's Japanese. I didn't know that. Some guy named Hiroshi Nishizawa, 87 kills. And there's an asterisk by him. The top 2 scoring Japanese aces are Hiroshi Nishizawa and Soichi Sugita. 87 kills and 80 kills respectively, but they both have asterisks and say some works credit Sugita with 120 kills and Nishizawa with 103. $75. You're never going to guess who this is. You're never going to guess who has 75 kills. I would have never guessed this in a million years. Some guy named Hans H. Wind from Finland. He had 75 kills. I had no idea. I would have never guessed that. Okay, these are the SHQ model. And these are all, they actually give you both turrets. The Chelyabinsk turret and the standard turret. And because all the T-34s from Skytrex come with this turret, I'm not putting any of these turrets on them. These are all going to be Chelyabinsk. Which there's only 3 of them anyways. And do these guys come with any figures? Oh, well, there's a problem. I don't remember if I've got figures for these guys. Finnish aces. What planes did they even fly? They had Messerschmitts. I assume some of his kills probably came from the Winter War. And in the Winter War, they flew all kinds of stuff because the British were supplying them with Gladiators, Hurricanes. Yeah. I think they ran some, what was that Curtiss? Is it a P-26? I think they used some Curtiss P-26s, which is like a radial engine plane. And I'm sure they had some of them left over after that war. Then at 64, you got Saburo Sakai. I've heard of that guy before. He's been credited with 80 kills in another work, although this author is satisfied that the figures given here are correct. The discrepancies have been pointed out because they do exist. 64 kills. There's actually quite a few Japanese guys on there. I wonder if they survived the war. Anyhow, we could spend all time looking on that. That's kind of, but that's what we have here. Leading 20 submarine commanders of the U.S. Navy. How many ships they sunk. The U-boat commander ones are in here as well. Here's the U-boat commanders. '22nd largest battleships of World War II. U.S. ships present at Pearl Harbor. Fastest fighter planes of the war. When were their first Grumman F-6F Hellcats used in combat? I would have known the year, but I wouldn't have known where. The Hellcats, my least favorite plane. And not because they weren't effective, I just don't like how they look. I'm not a fan of radial engine planes anyways. Some of them are okay. I don't mind P-47s, how they look. Does anyone here collect any historical items? Not me. Uh-oh. Somebody, the previous owner, glued this gun onto this turret, and that's not the one I want to use. Well, we're going to have to do some surgery. This one can go here. I glued it on the right one, this one. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. 1, 2, 3. I only have 3 holes. 1, 2, 3. So I'm not really worried. Oh, but I need the barrel. Okay, well, we'll just pop that thing off. Comrade Popov. Should be able to get underneath here. I don't think I can do it from the bottom. All right. I need to clean my hands. It's annoying to have shit on your hands. Distracts me. Make your favorite sound. You ready? What was that question again? When did the Hellcats go into action for the first time? I took that right off. Unless there wasn't any on that finger. Could have been that. I got too excited. There was nothing there to take off. What airbrush did you, what airbrush do you have, Nordic? I couldn't remember if you had airbrushed before, but apparently you can't. You did. We used to use a Pache back in the day. This thing's amazing. Put it in the freezer a few minutes. It's got lead in it. That a good idea? Let me see if I can't pop it off really quick. If not, I'll go put it in the freezer. See, there's not a gap there for me to work with. We'll go put it in the freezer. I'm going to put it in a little baggie. We'll put it in the freezer. For a few minutes, huh? You going to time it? You have an Iwata Neo. I got an Iwata. What the hell is that thing? Thing is awesome. Or everything else I've ever tried is a piece of shit. It's probably both. Where is it? Where is the box for it? I'm going to keep it. Here it is. When I saw this, when I saw that it came with this, I knew it was awesome. Go do something real quick. All right, well, I'll bring up the airbrush when you come back. Okay. Well, we'll see if that works in the freezer. I'll give it a shot. What the hell? Now let's see if this actually fits on here better than the other ones, because the other ones like truly sucked the way they went together. And this isn't much better either. It looks like this is only going to be gripped by the top layer of track here where it meets the side. You know, even though this is wider here at this spot, it's fatter here. It doesn't quite hit the. This is just crappy. I'm telling you, this is why I like plastic. I prefer plastic models than these white metal things. You know, and these actually are cast really well. They got a lot of detail on them. These are much better than the oh hell, I forget what the hell they're called. Have I ever done anything with World War One? I've been eyeing down some different brands. I used to do World War One naval. I don't want to do naval World War One land because the same reason I wouldn't want to do like France in World War Two. Everybody's like equipped with the same weapon. They're all riflemen, every one of them, and you know on a squad level, everybody's a rifleman, and that just lacks a little combined arms for my taste. You know, if I did do it, I would do early, and I would do French and German, just because the French had, you know, those really colorful uniforms, and back when nobody wore helmets and stuff like that. But I have done World War One naval, and yeah, it's okay. But I haven't really done any land combat because it's just, and the trench stuff, I have zero interest in the trench. It's just way too linear, like banging your head into a wall, you know. Okay, so we've got the tracks are going to go over here. 1, 2, and one of them's broken. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so here's the tracks for the 3 vehicles. Here is the fuel boxes, which I saw a picture of one that had fuel boxes and tanks. So those tanks from the Skytrex, we're gonna mix and match some of those. These all have machine guns to go in the hull, so we'll need 1, 2. Not worried about it. I'll just make them out of sprue. I just want to use one if there is one. Doesn't look like one of them has it. Is it glued in place? No, no big deal. So there's only 2 machine guns. Lots of clevises. And hatches, we're going to need 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have the 6 hatches. All right. The problem with the hatches is I know for a fact one of these is going to have, at least one of them is going to have the hatch open with a crew member. So, and here's the clevises to be the toe clevises. All right. Let's clean the bodies of these 3 up. That's what we'll do next. I found some pictures, and there were actually a couple of Stalingrad T-34s, like these style turrets in Stalingrad. I don't associate a Stalingrad with this kind. I associate them with the earlier version. But regardless, there was a couple pictures of a couple T-34s in Stalingrad, and 2 of them that had the model 1942 turrets. Both had air recognition stuff. One of them had like a circle in white that actually covered over both hatches. So we're going to do one of them like that. And the other one had a triangle. And they both, I believe, actually had like a white stripe that went all the way around the top. So we're not doing these. We'll use the Skytrex ones. We'll probably 2 of the Skytrex ones will be like that. Or I've got like 4 more of those Skytrex to do. So maybe it'll be on that group of 4 because I want these, the ones that are drying now are going to be for Kursk. It doesn't really matter as long as they have different numbers so they can be, recognized or whatever. If you need to identify them somehow, you can tell them apart from each other. I don't want them necessarily to be all from one unit because it's likely that they would all probably have the same markings. If they had any of those tactical markings or those units markings that they had on the side of the turret, it's likely that the Soviet vehicles had quite a few vehicles that had the same markings on them, and that doesn't exactly work for excitement and also variety. It's just kind of boring to do that. So okay, that side's good. This one seems to be 2. I think we can call this one done. Okay. Next one. But no, I have not done World War I land. I have not played that set of rules, those skirmish rules called Blood and Iron, I think is what they're called, by Firelock Games. That's a World War I set. I believe that's what it's called, Blood and Iron. It's blood and something. All their stuff is blood and... Might be blood and steel. Blood and steel or blood and iron. It's one of the two. And I have not played it. All their games are in 28 millimeter. I knew you can scale them for something else, but I'm not a 28 millimeter fan. I mean, if you're putting on a game and you got the figures, okay, sure, I'll play whatever, but I'm not painting any 28 millimeter stuff. That's not really geared for me. That's geared for people that, you know, that are used to that scale because of Warhammer or what have you. I've never played Warhammer, so I'm the wrong group they're trying to appeal to. But if you got like a German squad, everybody's equipped with a rifle. You know, I don't like early World War II Germans because that's the same case for them, except you got one guy that's got a light machine gun, and then you've got the squad leader and the assistant squad leader, both are riflemen. I want to play them when they got a couple MP40s, just for, you know, just for a variety of weaponry, of stuff to paint. Although I do like the early World War II stone gray pants with the more greenish tunic that they had. I think that looks nice. Okay, this one took some damage here. So Nordic isn't watching here, but I'm going to go ahead and fill this thing in. Which glue is that? It's not. It's plastic putty from Vallejo. We're going to be using epoxy to glue these guys together. We don't want any trouble from these guys. We want a permanent solution. We have a ton of T-34s to do. You know, I got to do this eventually, so It could be now or it could be later. All right. The video froze. Not on this end. Just give it a little while. Justin, welcome. I've got files, but this works better than files. And the files on some of this stuff is like trying to use a nuke to kill a roach. It's way too big. Unfrozen, look, and I didn't do anything. The mysteries of the internets. There's like a seam line here, and the part on the bottom is actually wider than it is at the top. So, chop some of that off. Normally I would go and spray that martyr, but we're going to try airbrushing the Vallejo matte on it. Doesn't need to be really thick, just needs to have something that can help protect it a little bit. Okay, that was just Tall Cruff Logan. Welcome, T34s. You got it. These are SHQ miniatures, technically in 1/76 scale. And why do I have so many T34s? Well, the last convention I went to here in Florida, there were some brothers that were having an estate sale for their brother's stuff. And I picked up a lot of T34s there. And I don't know if they were having any luck because it was all, 20 millimeter. And that's the scale I do, and it's not really in vogue anymore. So I got lots of T34s. I mean, like a lot. I mean, I got like a dozen of the 1942 kind. Do some Brumbars or Sturm Tigers. I would do a Brumbar. Sturm Tiger's not very useful. Sturm Tiger would like load, it's got to, it would take forever to load a round. In the scope of my game, I don't know if they'd be able to load a second round. But Brumbars, certainly. Just don't have any. We'll get there. Okay, this one's done. We do the barrel on this. I'm going to wait for Cletus to get back here. Nordic. You tell me when to take that thing out of the freezer. I don't think it's going to work. But I want it to work. but I am a skeptic. I had to fight a Brumbar that one of the last times I was playing that Gates of Hell Ostfront, and that dumb bastard was facing the wrong way. So T-3485's had a field day with that guy. Okay, has some flash when you take off, and then now this should be able to fit on there pretty well. Yep. Maybe let's maybe able to go a little deeper. Let's take some of this off. It's not laying super flat across that. I wonder why it's not sitting flush up against the turret on this side. Might be that this thing isn't big enough. Have any Stukas? Not yet. I'm a Stuka fan. I'm a Stuka fan. They look wicked. There we go. Now it fits flush. Okay. And this one stayed glued on. We don't need these two turrets. We won't need the third one either. We got to be careful about vacuuming all this stuff, although that's most of the major grinding, isn't it? That's it. So we can take all of this stuff and got some tow hooks to do. What do you think is the most boring period of history? Well, let's see. I think, well, history, we're going to say military history. Anything where both sides are basically wearing the same thing. So I'm not interested in like American Civil War at all. I know lots of people like it. It just doesn't interest me. You know, it might be one of those things that I don't care for American Civil War because none of my ancestors were here yet. So I don't have that tie-in that may be an appeal for a lot of folks that like it because, well, my great-great-great-grandfather was on one side and my great-great-great-great-granduncle was on the other one. And so none of that appeal is for me. I don't like the uniforms of that period, nor the facial hair and fashion of that period, so I don't really care for that. I'm also not a fan of like lace wars. You know, Louis the 14th kind of stuff. As everybody kind of wore the same thing. That's when the uniforms. That's when the uniforms kind of started, and they had similar styles for both sides, even though, you know, facings and stuff like that was different. So that doesn't really interest me either. What would that be, like War of Reason? It just doesn't really appeal to me. I'd play it. I'm just not dying to go out and buy stuff for it, you know. I like everything 20th century. You know, it just depends what, you know, speaks to you. I also don't mind Victorian stuff, But I don't want to play, England versus the natives because I just think that that's just a little two dimensional. I've mentioned this before. I've thought a really cool game would be, you know, like a World War One happening in like the 1880s or 1890s, where the Europeans end up, fighting in some foreign land, and the natives play for both sides, kind of thing. I think that would be a cool. I think that would be a cool idea. Oh, here's those damn headlights. Oh, I hate those things. Oh, and I only have one. Perfect. I hate those things because they're here. They fit here at an angle. And I had one of them, and I gave up on it. And I think it got lost. But, honestly, that's not too far-fetched because that's like the first thing they're going to lose. We'll try to put this other one. We got one good headlight there. I don't particularly care for American history. I've taken it, but it's like there's not enough interesting wars here, so we'll learn about the Constitution and stuff like that, which is not exactly exciting. I'm not going to be role playing the Constitution. I didn't think Rome was very interesting at all until I got involved in DBA, and then I learned more about it. I'm like, it's not bad. Greeks and Persians, that's always fun. But most boring, like I said, when both sides kind of wear the same thing and you don't really care for what it looks like, or I'm not really interested in after the 30 Years' War to maybe the 7 Years' War. Although I've played those games, and they're okay. It just seems like there's not a lot of options that you can do. But maybe that's just a mechanic of the rules that you're playing more than anything else. I've always been a World War II player, so I'm just coming back to it after 2 decades away. Okay, that one's good. All right, I gotta see if that thing's been in the freezer. How long has it been in the freezer? 15 minutes? Do I have any Gasland War miniatures? I do, and I'm not gonna pursue it. The problem I have with Gaslands is I don't mind playing it. I think it's a good game, but I don't want to be the person responsible for running the game. The rules have a lot of loopholes, and the fluff that's included in them it doesn't appeal to me. You can make your own fluff, your own factions and stuff like that. It's a good game. I'm not going to pursue that. I decided to do this instead, because Gasland's not going to motivate me to read about, Mad Max and stuff like that. It's not like, that this ties in with the history. All right, well, I'm going to go check on the stuff in the freezer. And if not, we're going to strong arm that thing off. Be right back. Hopefully it's not something I'm supposed to leave overnight. If we didn't do that, it's cold. I bet it won't work. I hope I'm wrong. Oh, it's very cold. It works. It frickin' works. Wow. There you go. Put them in the freezer. All right, we're going to hide this one, and we're going to tell Nordic that it didn't work. No, I don't roll that way. Wow. Go figure. All right, I think this is too tall. So instead of chopping them off, let's go ahead and, nah, I don't want to grind them. I'm going to make a mess here. Let's just take some of this height off of them. Yep. Perfect. Wow. Well, I don't use super glue for stuff. I just don't think you have a very good bond. I don't like to use it. Let's put it that way. I don't feel like you get a very good bond. Okay, so that's those three. Well, I'm surprised that worked. Well, that's a good thing. Okay, these things have already been they're pretty clean. They're just going to need to be drilled a little deeper or a little larger. You know, Gaslands is one of those games that all kinds of weird stuff's going to happen. And it's going to be really hard for the rules to address everything. Just the nature of the close proximity to the enemy you're going to be. And I've played it probably 4 or 5 times, and we had a hell of a great time playing it, but at some point I got to decide what I'm going to do, you know. And I'm kind of a person that I can't do 4 things at once. I've got to commit, you know, I'm going to do this, then I'm not going to do, you know, DBA. If I'm going to do Gaslands, then I'm not going to be able to do something else. And that's just me personally. I don't like to hop all over the place. I don't like being involved in 50 different game systems because you end up having nothing to show for it at the end. So I am quite happy building this. Now, let me take a step back. I started doing these vehicles after I stopped doing Gaslands. And one thing the Gaslands was doing is it was taking a really long time to paint the vehicles. I bet if I did it now and did them in a similar style as this, I could knock a shitload of them out. But at the end of the day, I don't want to sit down and try to, you know, scratch my head and try to figure out how the rules work in certain situations, because it's happened. And that's just not where my interest is right now. But it is a fun game. It is a fun game, and it's all about managing those dice. And you know, and if it was at a convention, I'd play it. I just, you know, I'd use somebody else's, you know, miniatures, you know. Just making this plenty big so the little back parts of it will have plenty of time to fit in there. But Wise Gasland had Max like trucks and cars. I think you mean like Mad Max. You know, I've never seen any of the Mad Max movies. I haven't avoided them. I just hadn't gone around and seen them. I did see that Death Race 3000 or whatever the hell it is, the one with Jason Statham in it. It's a fun game. It's a fun game. But a lot of these games, they start getting overwhelming, and I've got the new rules and everything. It's just kind of overwhelming. It's just, I feel like I got to play the game a few more times with somebody that really knows what they're doing before I can really like look in the rule book and really kind of get all that going. But I remember when it came out, I was really excited about it. And I've built a handful of vehicles for it. I'm just my personality. I can't be involved in 5 things at once. It'll just be overwhelming. I want to like do one thing, and if it means that I don't do anything else the rest of this year, other than do World War II stuff, then that's fine. We can look at it in another year. It doesn't necessarily have to end in December. It just for the time being, this is what I'm working on. Okay, that should be big enough to handle any of those things on there. We've got the 2 machine guns. The other one we'll make out of sprue. It's not a big deal. Gas cans. What did I do with the extra? Here they are. The other Chelyabinsk I have did not have any gas cans on it. I put these on here. Actually, let me go grab those 2. Oh. Yeah, I'm not going to last a whole lot longer. Let's see what we can knock out. Okay, these 2. One of these is an SHQ, and the other one is a Chelyabinsk. One is a SHQ Chelyabinsk turret, and the other one is a Skytrex. Now, Skytrex, I just feel like it's kind of misshapen a little bit. The shape of the turret. Just a tad bit. This is kind of like what those other 5 are going to look like. They're going to have different markings on them. But these 3 are just like this one. They've got these fuel boxes in the back. And I didn't realize that there was fuel boxes that had 3 and fuel boxes that had 1. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Where'd I get the ones that had only 1? Interesting. Anyways, we're gonna put fuel tanks on 2 of the other ones, and then one will do boxes and fuel tanks. Just to mix them up a little bit. And this didn't come with a with wood, so we're gonna mix them up as well, just to kind of give each one of them kind of their own personality. And all the markings are based on decals of 1/35th scale models. So there's some decal kit for this vintage T-34 that has that symbol on it and 14 on it. So I'm going to hand paint them all. And same thing with this one. I didn't just come up with them out of nowhere, Okay, you feel better now. You know that your trick with the freezer worked. It worked like a charm. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm glad it worked. But okay. What I don't know what I'm going to do is what to do about the hatches on these turrets. I need to see if I've got any commanders. I know I've got extra commanders for these Skytrex guys, but I think I've got some. I think I've got some lead commanders that we can put in there to kind of mix things up a little bit. Let's get the epoxy out and put some of that together. And I think it's time to use a different. I think that one's outlasted its welcome. Yeah, no, it actually worked. I can't believe it worked. I can't believe it worked. I wonder if it works with epoxy too. Maybe not. I don't use super glue for much. Oh, back to airbrushes. I picked up. I watched a review of this today, and I'm like, if this doesn't work, I know they carry this locally. If this doesn't work, I'm giving up, and I'm not airbrushing then. And where's the sleeve this thing came in? Well, I need a weekend to pick all this stuff up. It's not that much stuff, it's just everywhere. And that's what happens to me. Is it here? Here it is. This thing. It is an Eclipse HPCS. And this thing is freaking... No, it's not that this thing's awesome. All airbrushes should be like this. Not those other ones that make you want to, find out whose mother did it. And it's ridiculous. So, anyhow, it cleaned right up. It behaved exactly how it should have always behaved. So, airbrushings, I can do it right where you are and not have to worry about the heat messing with the paint. I could eventually do it in here. I want to take it to the garage a couple times just to make sure I don't make a mess. I'm using such a little amount of paint. I don't think it's getting anywhere. So, yeah, I won't need an upgrade for this thing. This thing's amazing. So, it's just how all of them should have been working all along. So, but the thing is it didn't come with a hose. So had I not gotten the cheap one, I got the cheap one came free with the compressor with the tank. I didn't get it for the airbrush. I got it because of the compressor in the tank. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe this will solve it. Nope. No, I spent like an hour fooling with it and got nowhere. And this other one, for an hour or less than an hour, I put it together and worked right out of the box and primered 2 vehicles with it. But had I not gotten that other airbrush with it, I would have come home with that Iwata and not had a hose and not been able to do anything with it. And not find out that it worked, because it's not like that I'm in a huge hurry to use it. I just don't, I want to find out if I'm ever going to be able to airbrush it again, period. And apparently that is the case. So, it should just be as easy to take apart as, my pistols. And it is. So, when something's a pain in the ass to take apart, you just don't take it apart and it gets ruined. Okay, so here is the clevises, the towing clevises. One goes there. Another one goes like this. And now I can actually watch videos about how to get better at it and not, because you'll get this, the rule book. The instructions will tell you everything you want to do with it, but then it doesn't even work right out of the box. And all it was doing was running thinner through it, and it wouldn't even work. It was just bubbling. And I just wasn't going to tear it apart. But I may mess with it at a later date because I'm going to keep it because I want to keep the airbrush. I don't want to return it, and I only save like $10 or something like that, whether or not it came with that. And honestly, it probably was a good thing I kept it, because like I said, the one I got didn't come with a hose. Now the interesting thing is the compressor has a moisture trap, and this HPC whatever the hell it's called had an extra moisture trap that came with it. So I got 2 moisture traps, so I should be all set. But man, it was great. I dialed it down to 15 pounds so I could get close. and it ran that airbrush, the surface primer, no problem, no jams, no sputtering, nothing. So very pleasantly surprised. Like I said, it's just working how they should have all worked from the get-go. So, did they make a quick disconnect hose that makes it easy to work with? I intend to kit mine out when I get a new setup. The cheap one came with a quick disconnect, but it leaks. So maybe I'll get tape. Oh, really? You decided to come off in the middle of this? Are you gonna start misbehaving? Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and put one of the machine guns on here. Preferably the one that doesn't need a lot of trimming. And the nice thing running about 15 is the lower pressure that you're running at, the less it's going to run because the more your tank is full. Because if you're trying to run at about 35 or something like that, it's basically running most of the time. Which is, it's fine. It's just, why be noisy when it doesn't have to be noisy? All right, let's see if we can get in there now with this. Oh, it was this one. Well, the funny thing is it was more expensive on Amazon than it was at the actual store here in town. But the reason I got it here is like, okay, I need to find out if this is going to be able to work, period. Because, I got buildings and stuff I got to do. I want terrain to do it, and it's going to be really difficult to hand paint that. That's going to take a long time if I'm using, brushes. Okay. Let's go to this one. But I'm not going to be changing my painting style, whatever. It's not like I'm going to be like using the spray gun to what I'm perfectly happy with, doing my dry brush method. But overall painting it in black, clear coating it. Definitely looking forward to clear coating it. We're going to clear coat this Hetzer, this Martyr this weekend with acrylic and not have to smell that poison, But I didn't have to thin it down at all. Just ran like a champ. That's why I didn't understand why I was having so much trouble with the airbrush, because it's not like I've never used one before. I mean, it's been a long time, but I don't remember having any problems with that pache that we used to use. But even way back when, it wasn't a suction style. It was gravity fed. And I'm not one person that goes out there and buys the most expensive thing that's available, but man, if it's causing you frustration every time you have to tear it apart, because I remember that cheap one that I had, when you pull that needle out, you had to like hold that button down, and it was just a nightmare to try to get it back in. And you just got to the point where it just even didn't even want to work. It didn't even want to work for you. No, this one. Let's try a different one. Are we missing some of the ones from the... We are. Well, we need to make sure that we have the toe hooks here at the top because they're a lot more prominent. Not going to be able to fudge one of those. This damn headlight is a pain in the ass. I much prefer plastic models to this because then you can use weld cement. And theoretically, when you're done with weld cement, your model is then one piece. You welded it all together into one thing. I'm going to have to wait for this to harden a little bit. I can't wait to try the AK paints with the spray paint. But like I said, I'm not going to change my, the style I'm doing this stuff in. It's not like all of a sudden I'm going to, just because I've got an airbrush, I'm going to do all this other kind of stuff that isn't really compatible with what I want. I'm still going to spray black. We're still going to dry brush the core color and so forth. I like the look of that. But it might be interesting to try some snow camo. Got to get the paint. I got to get the paintbrush really, really small. So, we picked up something on our way down. Well, I may just leave that. I may just leave that headlight off. I only have one of them anyways, and it's being incorrigible. You have a goblin regiment you're going to end up putting together for my dad this weekend. Excellent. All right. I've died here of sleep. I stayed up way too late. You guys kept me up too late last night. That's a good thing. But that's where we're at. We're going to try clear coating and acrylics this weekend. And it ended up being some light passes so we don't mess anything up. But I don't want to use those rattle cans anymore. But anyways, thanks for stopping by, folks. We'll catch you guys on the next one. And